Jumping In on Manx Radio.
With Howard and Chris Kane.
Hello.
Good evening.
And welcome. And here we go, time marching on as the weather gets colder as well as we head headlong, pell-mell towards Christmas. Yes, we're almost there already, would you believe? Can't believe it at all. However, if you've got some great ideas or you want a bit of a rest, now is the time, particularly if you like things jazzy, because it is Jumping In, the best in modern and contemporary jazz. With myself, H.
And me, Chris. Yes, welcome along to this week's show. As Santa starts preparing his sled for its mammoth task later this month, the lights sparkle around towns and houses, the footy's nearly done, and winter shows her teeth for the first time, so nightly Christmas bashes are resulting in bleary-eyed mornings as the winter excess is in full swing. So, H, other than a stronger constitution and a healthier bank balance, what have you put on your Christmas list this year, and what do you expect to be stuck in the post rather than in the drawer of your CD player? And have you been rapping or bopping as you munch your way through your advent calendar?
Well, I don't know they're on my list because I actually have them, so I don't know if they want repeats, but there's always some jazz on my list.
We've got plenty of repeats.
However, this evening, we'll be listening with Jeff. We'll find a new vibe with an older bloke, perhaps, and might be hearing our meaning with Kenny and Francie.
And for me, well, we're at high tide with the little people. We're swinging. We're at another level, and to start off, we're cruising for a bruising. Here's Nicholas Simeon with Fighting Song. Fighting song there, as you can hear, in front of an appreciative audience. Nicholas Simeon and the WDR Big Band, taken from their 2020 release, Balkan Jazz. Saxophonist Simeon hails from Romania originally, where, besides learning his horn, he studied the folk music of his homeland, but also orchestration and, thankfully, jazz. He moved to Australia in 1988, and with his Cologne-based quintet, this recording finds them paired with the WDR Big Band exploring Balkan Jazz, captured live in concert way back in 2004. Took a while to get round to putting the release out, didn't they? It's a great album, this, and indeed a great core quintet. Violinist Zoltan Lantos, accordionist Fausto Becalosi, drummer Benjamin Hennock, he of Prism fame, and percussionist Kruno Levicic. The album is on the Act label and is well worth a listen.
Certainly is. Great sound, good swinging stuff, and with a great modern tinge as well. Which you could say the same about some of the music of this man, Jeff Williams, the drummer. Stateside, but about a decade or so ago, he sort of set up a second home in London. He now commutes between the two, really. We've been lucky enough to see him a couple of times in London. We were going to interview him. It's one of those interviews that never, is the one that got away. We waited and waited, and it was going to happen, and waited, and it was going to happen. And for various reasons, we never got round to it. We'll get round to it one day, Jeff, I promise. It seems a really nice guy, and he was very frustrated. It just, it couldn't happen the way things were planning out. But we will do it one of these days. And this is an album, not his latest, which one I had seen a while back, but I just saw it quite recently. I thought, yes, I'll pick a copy of that up. The Listener, with the band he had then, Wayne Eubanks, John O'Gallagher and John Ebert. And this one is happily titled Beer and Water. Well, there we go. An appreciative jazz audience, which means they're listening, but there's not many of them normally. In a place we were at, only about a few weeks back, the Vortex Jazz Club, albeit about 10 years ago, 2012. That was recorded live at the Vortex by none other than Dill Katz. You might remember, he used to be around London in the sort of 80s and 90s. He used to be on the scene a lot, playing electric bass. I assume he still does play electric bass, but does some production recording work as well these days. A great character, Dill Katz, recording that. Jeff Williams, the album called The Listener. Jeff Williams leading from the drums, and again, it's always fascinating listening to his drummer. He teaches drums in the States for half the year, and then I think he sort of performs quite a bit, as I understand it, does less teaching in London. I might have that wrong, but he spends, bit of both. He lives in the States and comes across as well to the London side as well and plays around the London scene. Dwayne Eubanks on trumpet, John O'Gallagher alto saxophone. I think he has Josh O'Caleo in later outfits, and certainly the last time we saw him playing sax, and John Ebbeth on the bass.
In fact, last time we saw Dill Katz was at the 606 Club, and the last time we saw Jeff was playing at the Pizza Express, where, to be fair, although we'd promised an interview, it was just due to the amount of fans who wanted to have a chat with him and get albums signed.
I think there was someone doing a documentary or something.
Just went on and
on and on and on.
So he did apologise, but he was a very, very nice chap. Now, the piano trio is, of course, one of the most popular formats in the jazz canon, and indeed a format we both love, as you'll have heard on this show in the past. But because of this popularity, it's one of the most difficult formats in which to carve a unique niche. Well, staying with the same band members for a long time helps. Check out the Jarrett Standards Trio, or EST for starters. Swiss pianist Stefan Aby, I think, is identifiable almost from the first chord. Here's Maria Alta, the opener from Fairy Circus, the trio's 5th album, released a little bit earlier this year. with a level of telepathy that only comes from old friends and a sensitive touch that at times builds to dark, dense climaxes. Appropriate as Maria Alta means high tide. The assured interplay of bassist André Poussaz and drummer Michael Miche Stulz and AB's veil-like melody gives confidence that you're in the company of well-practiced musicians who could feel their way around in the dark. Not necessarily one for the car, but a dimly lit room with a glow of a fire and a glass of something nice. Perfect. Recorded direct to disc live at a Piano Tuners Factory and out now on the Swiss Music Today label. Limited edition on disc or from your favourite streaming service.
A cosy fire, slippers, a pipe, a glass of whiskey. You're gradually morphing into Val Dunican, I think. Lovely. Liking that very much. You are listening to... Oh, take it away, Clark.
Hi, this is Clark Tracy. You're listening to Jumpin In on Manx Radio.
Ha! Who says you can't get gems from the bargain bin? Yes, that was a recent spot. The Kenny Clark Francie Boland Big Band. Never go wrong with them. I don't know how many albums I had out over the years, but that was the complete 1963 recordings. Originally, I think, on vinyl, came out on 2 albums, and has been re-released more recently on CD. Back in the day, don't know quite when this one came out exactly, but yeah, coming out on 1 CD with bonus releases and all the rest of the usual guff put together as well, which is very nice indeed. The celebrated Kenny Clark Francie Boland Big Band, recorded in January of 1963. And the likes of Idris Sullivan and Jimmy Duker also playing sax on that one. Ronnie Scott, if you caught him at some stage. Francie Boland on piano and arranger, and of course Kenny Clark at the drums. And what sounds like the Timps as well there. Great stuff, and you recognised the track. Of course you did. Johnny One Note.
Johnny One Note it was, and from one out-and-out swinger to another one. Based in the Netherlands, Opus 5 is a supergroup in the best sense of the word, with a truly international lineup, although they now spend a lot of the time in the States. In fact, the idea for the group came about over a few drinks whilst awaiting a flight at Chicago's O'Hare Airport. Now on their 5th release, the rest, as they say, is history. Here's Opus 5 with Swing On This, the title track from their new album. swing on this from Opus 5, and a real swinger it is too, with a great lineup. Seamus Blake, who we have seen a couple of times on tenor, Alex Sipagan, favourite of the show, on trumpet, Donald Edwards on the drums, Boris Kozlov on bass, and last, but by no means least, David Kikowski on piano on that track, and Fender Rhodes. All of these musicians have worked with many, many other prominent projects, such as the Mingus Big Band, Eric Clapton, Elvis Costello, as well as multiple releases under their own names, and it shows. Swing on This is on the Crisscross label, and thanks very much to them for sending us a copy.
Indeed, and it's a cracker. I really enjoyed that one, I must admit. It probably is proper modern swing. Excellent stuff. Just the thing for your Christmas stocking, if you haven't got it. Try and get the CD rather than download. It looks much better in the stocking. Snarky Puppy, yeah, I know there are certain people who listen to this programme who love Snarky Puppy, probably a lot more than I do. But Bill Lawrence has other projects on the go as well, and certainly a fine pianist. We saw him in a solo set in London a year or two back at the Jazz Festival. I know he brought out at least one, if not more, albums with just either himself or with his own trio. A new one coming out on ACT next spring pairs him up with founder of Snarky Puppy, Michael League. 20 years since the South California-born bassist, multi-instrumentalist League founded the globally acclaimed 4-time Grammy Award-winning collective, and of course Bill Lawrence, originally from London, been part of that adventure for almost as long as League has. So they've known each other for a long time, a good agreement between them, and they've come up with something totally different from Snarky Puppy, which sounds a bit like this.
Hi, this is Craig Taborn, and you're listening to Jumpin' In with H and Chris on Manx Radio.
Great stuff. 3 for the price of 1 there. So if we go from the start, 2 newies coming out on Act. The first one we heard, like I said, Michael League and Bill Lawrence with their new album due out in February next year. A track called La Marinada, which I assume means, it sounds like it means the marinade, but I doubt if it does. The album's going to be called Where You Wish You Were, due out on February 2023 it's going to be, isn't it? A duo approach. Both, of course, Snarky Puppy. Well, basically from the beginning it was League and Lawrence was in there from early days, but they were looking for something different, and very different is indeed. We don't have the sort of the synth or whatever that Lawrence is used to. It's far more playing acoustic grand piano, which has been prepared, we're told, with extra felt to dampen the strings, so you get a very soft sort of sound going on. And League, known as an electric bassist and fired up with jazz and groovy numbers, whatever, is mostly playing acoustic instruments, Mediterranean and Oriental origin. The oud features, and I think we heard it there, and also a specially constructed acoustic and electric guitar and a West African lute called the ngoni. Great stuff. I've only heard a few tracks on that one yet, but it sounds like a really nice one to settle back with a nice glass of sherry or something too. Maybe not the car, but nice contemplative stuff, and definitely a different side of those two characters, known for much louder, more in your face, and the great joy of Snarky Puppy. And then we had Wolfgang Hafner with his new album called Silent World, which is coming out in January 2023. Refers back to, of course, lockdown, and basically says instead of being busy, flying around the 5 continents, playing as he has done on more than 400 albums, session play and all sorts of stuff, one of Germany's, Europe's busiest drummers in many ways, he had time to relax, kick back and come up with music which reflected him, his sound, his groove. And this is reflected in this album, Silent World, with a whole host of goodies. Michael Foreman on it, Niels Landgren features, Bill Evans featured there on soprano sax as well. And I said check that one out when it comes out on the shelves and as a download, of course, and whichever way you want to get it, really, in January.
Well, that's about it for this week's show. There's just time, however, to fit in a track from Wool Gathering, from Bergen-based Norwegian trio Data Deer on the new label Is It Jazz Records. Wool Gathering was released in June and blends blues, jazz and improvisation. Sounds perfect. They are Øystein Hines on bass, Amund Nordstrom on the drums, and rocking that guitar, Odd Erland Mikkelsen. Here's Tia, at a different level, shall we say.
Terrific
See you next
stuff.
week.
See you indeed. And did you get that last one, by the way? Any guesses who that last one was? A very young Gary Burton. Gary Burton, 1961. See you next week.
Bye.